Hello and welcome, wherever you are, to today's installment of the Daf Yomi, Daf 18, Amud A. Probably just do the first Amud, see how much time I have for that, and Arakhin from the Steinsaltz edition of the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud. So let's dive straight in. So just so it makes sense, I'll start from the last sentence of the previous Amud. But if someone knew testimony about another before he became his son-in-law, and then he became his son-in-law, and afterwards his wife, who was the daughter of the father-in-law, died, which means that the witness is no longer related to the party involved, or when he was able to hear, and then he became a deaf mute, and again became able to hear, or when he could see and subsequently became blind, and afterward he could not see again, or when he was halachically competent and then became an imbecile, and again became halachically competent. In all these cases, he's fit to testify. This is the principle. Any individual whose beginning and end is in a state of qualification to serve as a witness is qualified to testify, even if he was unfit in the interim. Evidently, it is not derived from the verse, and he's a witness, and that the witness must be fit from beginning to the end. The Gemara explains the halacha different there. Excuse me. With regard to testimony, as the verse states, he is a witness, whether he has seen, if he does not utter in Leviticus 5:1. This formulation indicates that the most one renders the matter of a testimony dependent on seeing and the content of his testimony. And in this instance, there is both valid seeing and valid recounting, despite the fact that the witness was disqualified in the interim. The Gemara asked, but if so, why do I need the exclusion of the verse, and he is a witness? And the Gemara answers, the limiting clause is necessary for that which is taught in the Baita. If someone saw a crowd of people standing, and his witnesses were among them, and he said, I hereby administer an oath to you, and if you know any testimony related to me, that you come and testify for me, one might have thought that this form of address suffices to single out the witnesses. This to mean that if the witnesses take a false oath, that they do not know testimony with regard to a person who addressed them, and may be obligated to bring an offering of an oath of testimony. Therefore, the verse states, and he is a witness, demonstrates that the offering applies only to the one who is singled out as a witness. Excuse me, sorry. And in this case, that the individual did not single out as witnesses, as he addressed a whole crowd of people. Consequently, the witnesses are exempt. The Bride continues. One might have thought that even if this individual said to the crowd, I adjure whoever knows testimony relating to me that he will come and testify for me, that even in the case of this more specific address, the witness alike was exempt from the offering of an oath of testimony. Therefore, the verse states, and he's a witness, and by clarifying his appeal, the individual did not single out his witnesses. Consequently, in this situation, the witnesses would be obligated to bring the offering. The Mishnah teaches, but with regard to the offerings of a leper, that is not so. They come to dispute the topic of discussion in the Gemara here. According to Rashi, after the Mishnah asserts with regard to offerings that is not so, the Mishnah returns to discuss specifically the halacha and evaluations. This is consistent with the statement of Rabbi Eliezer cited here in the Gemara, refers to those bringing valuations. See also 23b to 24a. Others maintain that the Mishnah and this related Gemara are dealing with both valuation and offerings, and that's from the Rabbeinu Yitzchak into Tosfot. If the leper is destitute, even if his father died and left him $10,000 dinars, him will tell you has no share in it. The Gemara raises a difficulty. If his father had already died and left him 10,000 dinars, he is wealthy. How could he be considered destitute at all? Rabbeinu Abai said that one should say instead his father is dying and leaving him 10,000 dinars, but he has not yet died. The Gemara raises a further difficulty. If so, it is obvious that with regard to the Talmud treasury he may be destitute, and at the time he is in fact destitute. The Gemara answered, halacha was stated with regard to a case where his father is a moribund. Rabbi Go says, father is a moribund with regard to one who is obligated to bring a sliding scale offering. If he is destitute at the time he brings the offering of a destitute person. Even if he is due to inherit from a moribund person, he is still considered destitute until that individual dies and he actually comes into possession of the inheritance. Rambam Sefer Kabbalah 10:10. Lest you say that as the majority of the Melbourne people proceed to die, the son should be considered wealthy even before his father dies. The Mishnah therefore teaches us that the son retains his status as destitute until his father actually dies. The Mishnah likewise teaches, if his ship is at sea and merchandise valued at 10,000 dinars coming into his possession, this money is not taken into consideration by the temple treasury. The Gemara asks, but isn't he wealthy? And instead, the Mishnah is referring to a case where a ship was leased or rented to others. In the case of a lease, the leaser has possession of and the right to make use of the ship in exchange for a certain percentage of the profits that are given to the owner. In the case of a rental, the renter pays a fixed sum for the use of the ship over a given amount of time. According to this explanation, when the Mishnah states that the sum of 10,000 dinars is coming to his possession, it means that even if the wages of the lease or the rent are very high, they are not considered part of his property until he actually collects them, says Rashi. And therefore, the merchandise contains belongs to someone else. The Gemara asks, but isn't there the rent money that will be paid to the left? But the Gemara answers, rent is only paid at the end of the rental period, which means you only destitute in the meantime. The Gemara raises another difficulty, but let the Mishnah derive and determine that the leopard wealthy due to the fact that he owns a ship. The Gemara answers, in accordance with whose opinion is the statement in the Mishnah, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who maintains that with regard to determining one's obligation to bring an offering of a wealthy or destitute individual, the property that he uses for business is not taken into account. And we learn in the Mishnah 23b, when someone's property is to be possessed in order to pay his debt to the temple treasury, Rabbi Eliezer says if he was a farmer, if one is obligated to give valuation assessment to the temple treasury, the court is empowered to seize pledges from him. Although any property may be taken to provide the treasury its due, the court generally leaves him with two of whichever items he requires to perform the craft on which he earns his livelihood. Nevertheless, even some of these items are collected. For example, the court does not leave an animal to a farm or donkey driver, nor a ship to a ship owner. This ruling is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, but rather in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis who dispute his opinion on the Mishnah 23b. Say for Fla, Hilchot Arakhin 3:18, and the case of Mishnah there. The treasurer gives him permission to keep his pair of oxen with which he plows the field. If he is a donkey driver, the treasurer gives him permission to keep his donkey. The fixed sum by the Torah based on the years of age is in accordance with the age of the vow. Hashanim B'nida. With regard to valuation of various age groups, these ages apply to the one being valuated, not the one performing the valuation. So if a 20-year-old says with regard to a 60-year-old, it is incumbent upon me to bring the valuation, he provides the valuation of a 60-year-old. If a 60-year-old says of a 20-year-old, it is incumbent upon me to bring his valuation, he gives the valuation of a 20-year-old. Rambam Sefer Fla, Hilchot Arakhin V'Rachmim 116, and see the case of Mishnah there. How so? A youth who is valuated, this cannot be referring to an actual minor, as it has already been stated that a minor cannot take a valuation to a. Rather, the individual mentioned here is one who is younger than 20. The valuation of such an individual is 20 shekels, unlike someone between the ages of 20 and 60 years whose valuation is 50 shekels, and an elder above the age of 60 whose valuation is 15 shekels. An elder gives the valuation of an elder. An elder who valuated a youth gives the valuation of a youth, and the distinction based on sex that is written with regard to halacha valuation is stated with regard to the one valuated. How so? A man who valuated a woman gives the valuation of a woman, and a woman who valuated a man gives the value of a man. And the different valuation based on the age of one valuated is determined at the time one takes the valuation, takes the vow valuation. The individual takes the valuation of someone who is less than 20 years old. He is brought before the court only after the subject of the valuation reaches the age of 20. He is obligated to give the valuation of one who is less than 20 years old. In other words, the valuation is determined by the moment of the valuation, not the moment of the individual where the individual stands in court. 3:1. How so? If one valuated another when he was less than 5 years old, when his valuation is 5 shekels, and before payment to the temple treasury, the subject of the vow became more than 5 years old, when his valuation is 10 shekels, or if one valuated another when he was less than 20 years old, when his valuation is 10 shekels, and before payment to the temple treasury, the subject of the vow became more than 20 years old, when his valuation is 50 shekels. In all these cases, he gives payment according to the age of the subject of the valuation at the time of the valuation. I'm going to end there and wish you a very good day. All the best. Bye.